The August 13th, 2019 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Ansello. Mr. Broth. Ms. Boyce. Mr. Brew. President Carbone.
Here.
Mr. Delhaney. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Felder. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell. Ms. Halstead. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Howland. Ms. Cayley. Ms. Lamar. Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Marinetti. Mr. Michikay. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Moyo. Mr. Rockow. Mr. Shepard's excused. Ms. Taylor. Mr. Terp. Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Wilt. Mr. Zale.
Please stay seated. I'd like to introduce Reverend James Simmons of Barber African Methodist Episcopal Church. Baber? Sorry. Who has been invited by Legislator Sabrina A. Lamar to lead us in a moment of prayer. Sorry, Reverend Baber.
Beloved hearts, let us bow our heads in a word of prayer. Merciful and everlasting God, Lord, we pause now to give your name reverence, thanksgiving, and praise. God, we have so many reasons to give your name praise. For the mere fact that you woke us up this mountain and started us on our way, God, we give your name praise. The mere fact that we have a reasonable portion of health and strength, and that our sleeping bed was not our cooling board, God, we give your name reverence, thanksgiving, and praise. The mere fact that we're here right now with positions of authority and power, God, we give your name reverence, thanksgiving, and praise. Now, oh God, our prayer this particular eve is real simple. Lord, help us to continue the work that you started while you were on earth. Oh God, help us to continue the work that you started while you were on earth. In the same manner that Jesus announced in Luke chapter 4 that he was sent to proclaim release to captives and liberation to men and women trapped in mass incarceration, oh God, help us to continue this work. In the same manner that Jesus overturned tables in the temple where rich profited at the exploitation of the poor, oh God, help us to continue this work. In the same manner that Jesus poured out his spirit on all flesh, men and women, in a time when women were subordinate to men, oh God, help us to continue this work. In the same manner that Jesus came to proclaim good news to the poor, oh God, help us to continue this work. Help us to continue the work that Jesus started while on earth. Help us to allocate resources that will assist the least, the last, and the forgotten. Help us, oh God, to ensure the distribution of goods and resources such as education and employment, healthcare and housing, public safety, technology, and transportation reach those who need it most. Help us, oh God, to craft legislation and to vote for proposals that will help to curtail the senseless blood on our streets. Oh God, help us to make decisions that will benefit the poor, for those who mock the poor insult their maker. Oh God, help us to continue the work that you started while on earth. God, this is our simple plea and prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. And the children of God say amen and amen.
Please stand as Legislator John Lightfoot will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Legislator.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I ask you to remain standing. Without objection, we will take agenda item number 49 out of the regular agenda order. Agenda item number 49 is moved by Legislator Marinetti and seconded by Legislator Cayley. Will the clerk please read the resolution in memoriam for legislator Paul E. Haney, former Monroe County legislator?
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of legislator Paul E. Haney, former representative for the 23rd Legislative District. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deepest sympathy and sorrow at the recent passing of Paul E. Haney, former Monroe County legislator for the 23rd District. Paul will be deeply missed by our community, most of all by the friends and family who knew him best. And whereas Paul passed away on July 22, 2019 at the age of 78, he was a lifelong resident of Rochester, residing in the 23rd Legislative District for 20 years. His involvement in politics spanned more than half a century. He was introduced to politics and community affairs early in his life through his parents' involvement as officials with the Democratic Committee in the Ninth Ward. Their passion and drive was instilled in him, and he carried his love for politics with him to St. John Fisher College, where he was active in the Young Democratic Club. And whereas Paul's passion for serving his community was evident to all who knew him. In his career, Paul served in the city of Rochester as a member of the city council for 11 years and was county director of finance from 1988 to 1992. In addition, during his tenure as a county legislator, he served as ranking minority member on the Ways and Means Committee and as a member of the Environment and Public Works Committee. Paul worked in a number of roles during his years in Monroe County government, including one of his personal favorites, where he served on the county's audit committee. And whereas Paul served tirelessly as he challenged the merits of countless public projects and pieces of legislation on a variety of topics during his tenure in public office. He was perhaps best known for his deep dive into the budget books. He used his tools as a certified public accountant, matched with his all-star style debate, to catch the attention of many. And whereas Paul served as a role model of love, kindness, and strength that everyone can aspire to be, his memory is one that will live forever through those who knew him well. Paul will be remembered for his service to this county. He will be greatly missed. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
Please remain standing. Without objection, we will take agenda item number 50 out of the regular agenda order. Agenda item number 50 is moved by legislator Marionetti and seconded by legislator Cayley. Will the clerk please read the resolution in memoriam for former State Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Richard Rosenbaum?
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of former State Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Richard Rosenbaum. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deepest sympathy at the recent passing of the Honorable Richard Rosenbaum, former State Supreme Court Justice, Monroe County Legislator, Chairman of both the Monroe County and New York State Republican Committees, and former gubernatorial candidate of the state of New York. And whereas Richard passed away on July 28, 2019 at the age of 88. Richard was born in Oswego, New York to Jack and Shirley Rosenbaum. From early in his life, Richard acted with passion in everything he achieved, earning his undergraduate degree from Hobart College, then later attending Cornell Law School. Richard returned to Rochester to begin his law career in Penfield, New York, where he also served as a town justice. Following this, he served in the Monroe County Legislature from 1965 to 1968 until he became chairman of the Monroe County Republican Party. And whereas, in 1970, Richard became one of the youngest ever elected to serve on the state Supreme Court bench. He left the bench in 1972 to serve as New York State Republican Party chairman until 1977, later joining the law firm of Nixon, Hargrave, Devins, and Doyle, now known as Nixon Peabody, where he became a partner focusing on government issues and lobbying regulatory agencies. Richard also ran for governor of New York State in 1982 and 1994. His passion for public service was passed on to his children. His son Matthew has been a state Supreme Court justice since 2005, and his daughter Amy is the Penfield town clerk. And whereas Richard is survived by his wife Judith, son Matthew, and daughters Amy, Jill, and Julie, as well as his 13 grandchildren. Those who knew him well will never forget his storytelling, affable voice, and contagious laughter. Richard will be remembered for his service to his country and community, both as a mentor and a leader to many. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
Please be seated. Your copy of the Journal of Day 7, July 9th, 2019 is available on your tablet. Without exception, the Journal will stand approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire in the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, page, or other electronic device in your possession, I'd request that you make it inaudible for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on your tablet as well as online. There are several proclamations scheduled this evening. Mr. Clerk.
Will representatives from the Irondequoit 5-6 Youth Lacrosse Program please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone and County Executive Cheryl Donalfo. Whereas the rapid rise of lacrosse has been seen in communities all across the country, and especially here in Monroe County. The number of children opting to play lacrosse has grown exponentially in the last decade. The youth segment is possibly the fastest growing area of the sport due to the club and youth town programs. Monroe County has many youth teams that strive to improve their physical and mental fitness while promoting team building and socialization from a young age. And whereas the Irondequoit Youth Lacrosse Program works to instill values that will stay with players for life, they learn to value and recognize that a worthy opponent brings out the best of their athletic ability and to compete with a fierce but friendly attitude. They embrace their teammates and fully encourage and support all of our Irondequoit teams. And whereas the 5-6 Irondequoit Youth Lacrosse team is a group of hardworking and enthusiastic 5th and 6th grade girls, the team had an impressive season, finishing first at the 5th and 6th grade division. The members of the Irondequoit Youth Lacrosse team competed with determination and heart throughout the entire season, which ultimately led to their championship win. And whereas the players and coaches of the team have made their town and community proud, Monroe County is pleased to have such talented residents with incredibly bright futures ahead. Each member of the 5-6 Irondequoit Youth Lacrosse team should serve as a role model to their classmates and other community members. Now, therefore, we, Cheryl Donalfo, County Executive, and Dr. Joe Carbone, President, on behalf of the citizens of Monroe County, do hereby recognize the 5-6 Irondequoit Youth Lacrosse Program for their hard work and success during their championship season.
I'll make it brief. Just wanted to say we've got a great group of girls. We're super proud of them, and we definitely appreciate the recognition that they're receiving tonight. I think it's a really big deal for them. So thank you very much. Super proud of you girls, and keep it up. Okay?
Will Brian Heating please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone, County Executive Cheryl Donalfo, and Legislator Carla Boyce. Whereas, on June 25, 2019, a group of young boys went to a quarry off of Clover Street in Pittsford to spend a hot summer day fishing with friends. Brian Heading and Alex Lombard were fishing from the shore while others were in a boat. As the afternoon continued, the boat started taking on water, and one of the teens went beneath the surface and lost consciousness. And whereas, without hesitation, Brian dove into the water to save the 14-year-old. As Brian began to lose his energy, his peer Alex jumped in to help. These two courageous boys pulled the helpless boy to shore, and with the assistance of the others at the quarry, as they got to shore, they called 911 looking for help. The dispatcher gave Alex instructions to perform CPR. After 5 minutes, the 14-year-old started spitting up water and regained consciousness. And whereas, Brian and Alex acted with courage that day as they selflessly saved their peer from drowning. Bravery is a quality that cannot be taught. Both young men acted quickly and risked their own lives to save the life of another. They serve as great role models for their peers and our entire community. And whereas, Monroe County is proud to be the home of such a brave young man, today it is an honor to recognize Brian for his courageous acts which ultimately saved a life. Now therefore we, Cheryl Donalfo, County Executive, Dr. Joe Carbone, President, and Carla F. Boyce, Legislator, District 5, on behalf of the residents of Monroe County, do hereby recognize Brian Heading for his selfless, heroic actions on June 25, 2019, which saved the life of another.
Thank you. Thank you.
Will Andrew Perez and representatives from AMR please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone and County Executive Cheryl Donalfo. Whereas each and every day, paramedics around Monroe County go to work with the intention of helping those in need. They provide emergency health services to residents and visitors of Monroe County day in and day out. These men and women are pillars of the community and dedicate their time, skills, and knowledge to life-saving and preventative medical care. Their combined efforts have saved thousands of lives and increased the quality of life for our residents and their families. And whereas paramedics like those at American Medical Response do not hesitate to save the lives of others no matter the circumstance or situation. These skilled professionals have a strong commitment to continued training, skill enhancement, and interagency coordination, which makes them vital members of our public safety community. And whereas acts of kindness and appreciation from Monroe County citizens for our local paramedics provide them encouragement and support as they confront dangerous and uncertain situations every day while in service of others. Our community will never be able to repay our paramedics for all they do to keep our families safe. And whereas Monroe County owes an immeasurable debt of gratitude to the men and women who work tirelessly and bravely to ensure the well-being of all residents in our community. That service provided by paramedics are invaluable to the lives of Monroe County citizens, and we are so thankful for all these individuals do. Now, therefore, we, Cheryl Donalfo, County Executive, and Dr. Joe Carbone, President, on behalf of the residents of Monroe County, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 13th, 2019, to be Paramedics Day in honor of all of our paramedics in Monroe County.
On behalf of AMR, I really would like to say thank you to the community and everybody for kind of acknowledging us as a third branch of public safety, and this truly means a lot moving forward. We're here for the community, and we truly appreciate this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Will Rick Gauze please come forward? Also, President Dr. Joe Carbone and Legislator Joe Morelli, Jr. Whereas it is Whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate achievement across Monroe County. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with longstanding tradition, these legislators are justly proud to honor Mr. Rick Gause. And whereas, as the sixth leading cause of death, Alzheimer's disease affects 5.8 million Americans. Memory loss and other cognitive abilities seriously impact their daily life. Many people suffering are being cared for by loved ones. Those caregivers are unpaid and many times overworked. And whereas, when his mother-in-law Velma began showing signs of confusion, Rick knew there was something seriously wrong. Diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Rick has been caring for Velma for years, and before that, he cared for his parents. And whereas, as a high school football coach and substitute teacher, Rick took on a caregiving responsibility without any hesitation. Soon he realized how difficult being a caregiver was, and encouraged by his wife, Rick attended a support group. And whereas, at the request of the Alzheimer's Association, Rick signed up for a training course to become a community educator. He now conducts educational seminars for caregivers within the greater Rochester and Finger Lakes region. And whereas Rick works with the families of those affected by Alzheimer's or another dementia, helping them access a wealth of resources about the disease and free services such as care consultation, respite, and support groups. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Joseph Murley Jr., Legislator, 17th District, and Dr. Joe Carbone, President, do hereby recognize and honor Rick Gause for his compassionate efforts as a caregiver and educator for those in our community on this 13th day of August, 2019.
Okay, I'm really grateful for this opportunity here and this recognition. I'm really a very, very private type person, and I just wanted to say that what I do and how I was compelled to get into this was actually that woman right back there. That's my wife right back there. She asked me to go to a seminar, which I did not want to go to, but when I did, I was all in. I was so like, I'll just say this here in Monroe County and Rochester area, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia and getting our people the right resources. And thank you. Thank you all for listening. Please invest in that, and you're an educational part of it because it's something that's inevitable for us. No, it doesn't matter race, creed, color, economic barriers, or anything like that, but we have a lot of work to do, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Will members of the Pittsford-Mendon tennis team please come forward? Also, President Joe Carbone, Legislator Howard Mafucci, Legislator Carla Boyce, and Legislator John Holland. Whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate achievement across Monroe County. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with longstanding tradition, these legislators are justly proud to honor the Pittsford-Mendon boys tennis team. And whereas head coach Paul Myers led the Vikings to the Section 5 Class B championship, their sixth straight sectional title, and finishing with an undefeated 17-0 record. And whereas captains Josh Weiss, Alec Wolf, Tim Doberstoff, Steve Kelly, and the rest of the Vikings topped Brockport and Harley-Annandale Columbia in the sectional tournament to reach the final. In the final, Mendon faced off against crosstown rival Sutherland, winning 4-3 to capture the title. And whereas, as important as their success on the court is, these young men also continue the Pittsburgh tradition of excelling in the classroom and displaying positive leadership in the community. Many players volunteered their time to teach youth tennis lessons at local clubs and were named a New York State Public High School Athletic Association Scholar-Athlete team by maintaining a 92 average. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Dr. Joe Carbone, President, Howard Mafucci, Legislator, District 10, Carla Boyce, Legislator, District 5, and John Holland, Legislator, District 13, do hereby honor the Pittsburgh Men and Boys Tennis Team on this 13th day of August, 2019.
I just want to quickly say thank you. You pretty much touched on everything. 6 straight titles, another undefeated season. The boys work, as hard as I can ask. So proud of them year after year. So thank you again for honoring us.
We will now recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing. I now declare open the public hearing entitled Enacting a Local Law Authorizing Sale of a Surplus Parcel of Real Property Owned by Monroe County located at 342 through 344 East Henrietta Road, City of Rochester, New York, to L&L Residential Rochester, LLC.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I now declare open the public hearing entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in Rochester Pure Waters District, Frank E. Van Laer, Wastewater Treatment Plant, Secondary Clarifier Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I now declare open the public hearing entitled Approving Increase and Improvement of Facilities in Rochester Pure Waters District, Frank E. Van Laer, Wastewater Treatment Plant, Electrical Systems Improvements.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I will now reconvene the August 13, 2019 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold a public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mr. Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and please conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the rear of the chambers. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers are Mary Ann Harrow, Paul Frisella, and Cecilia Darling.
The welfare system is a failure, a cushion, and an enabler. Free housing, RG&E, water, cell phone, bus pass, and 3 out of 4 recipients in Joseph Clinton Hudson sell and use drugs. Disrespect the police and people like me who for 35 years verbally complain about their drug use, loud music, drug sales, litter, prostitution, and violent behavior. Fact, high crime area are welfare recipient areas. The police can't do it alone. DSS base is a basic problem. Solutions. Recipients live in a halfway house for 6 months before a rental apartment. Course on how to be a good neighbor, drug testing, job training, parenting, humane treatment of cats and dogs, spayed and neutered. Also, no loud music, no drug sales. If any are arrested, benefits cut, and back to the halfway house, not back to the rental on our streets, ruining our homeowner neighborhoods. Homeowners are not the problem. Welfare renters are constant police calls. Example, 300 Bremen across the street from me, 12 studios. I demand this be removed from DSS rental list and welfare disability, as every welfare renter sells and uses drugs. Example, a Jamaican dealer at number 14 had 30 cars coming and going from a studio apartment to pick up and distribute drugs. Police eviction took a year. Another recipient was an addict and prostitute who maced me 2 times when I complained. Also, I voted for and support President Trump, and I'm against Governor Cuomo's plan to legalize marijuana. We are overwhelmed by pot, heroin, and crack addicts in our area, and we don't need any more. This legislature is part of the problem, if not part of the solution.
I am Paul Frisella. Right after the horrible tragedy at the Rochester Tim Hortons recently, someone from Monroe County Communications Office made a cold, uncaring remark, essentially saying they didn't care about it. This is lousy and shows the cold indifference in this county. Also, I attempted to speak to that office and the Monroe County Executive's office, but nobody at these offices ever picked up. Only machines were there, which is another problem. I reported that to the Monroe County Majority Office, but still nobody picked up the phone at these offices. Although Monroe County inspections at restaurant grease traps recently are good, it is too little, too late. These inspections should have happened long before the tragedy, not after the tragedy. This shows the incompetence of Monroe County administration. In the light of all this, I strongly encourage all people present to vote appropriately in future elections.
Good evening. My name is Celia Darling, and I am 17 years old from Webster, New York. Tonight, I am speaking on behalf of my generation, as well as future generations that cannot currently advocate for themselves. The International Panel on Climate Change, run by the United Nations, predicts that the Earth will warm 8 degrees Celsius, or 14.4 degrees, by the year 2100. A warmer planet amplifies the frequency and power of extreme weather, destroys harvest, and is responsible for the extreme rise of sea levels. These changes create billions of dollars worth of damage while drastically increasing the number of people who are hungry and displacing countless of families from their homes. 97% of scientists concur that humans are causing this. Humans also have the ability to stop this, starting here in Monroe County, through carbon neutrality. We believe a crucial first step is creating a Climate Action Plan Advisory Board for the county to research and implement green change, as well as advise the county on green policy. As a resident of Webster, I am aware that my friends, family, and fellow community members support green policy from both sides of the aisle, as we realize a warmer earth hurts everyone. In conclusion, it is imperative for Monroe County to become a leader in green policy to ensure that there will still be an earth for future generations to call home. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are William Turner, Joanne Sassa, and Alyssa Cottrell.
Fall election approaches, I ask two things of this chamber. First of all, I ask that campaign money and energy favor candidates who are the best for our county and not just for entrenched county bureaucrats. Secondly, I ask, a while back, a local radio wag commented that you legislators are afraid of your party bosses like toxic Billy Napier and Bill Carpenter, who collects a $250,000 salary while running a fourth-rate transportation system. Bosses like Donalfo and her economic director, her token economic director, Jeff Adair, and other pay-to-play combinations like the Morelli Del Lago Wilmot organization. Background executive bureaucrats that work in our executive office who belatedly devise mandatory safety caps on grease traps but they do it belatedly, not before, but after. And bureaucrats who arrange de novo 6-point and still not utilized program following the abuse death of 3-year-old Brooke Stagels. So, as I asked before, I ask first that election resources are used to support the best of you in this room, and you know who those people are. And secondly, I ask that you use the power that we citizens have given to you, in spite of the many toxic persons who will sabotage your best efforts. And I thank you all.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Cottrell, and I am here to speak about the importance of our county having more green policy and creating a climate action plan advisory board. So for a lot of people, they want to do better for the environment, they want to do what they can for the environment, but are unable, whether due to lack of convenience or increase in cost. And even the people who are really doing their best to support the environment, it's not enough to make up for everyone who's for everyone's carbon footprint, and which is why we need a climate action plan advisory board. This board could take some of the responsibility out of the hands of the individual person and put it in the hands of the government, this board would do research and help set in place policies that would reduce Monroe County's carbon footprint. We need a climate action advisory board in Monroe County to make sustainability the norm for everyone living in this area, and could be a small step toward widespread carbon neutrality, which will help out everyone in the end.
Our next 3 speakers are Ellen Mancuso, Liam Smith, and Chris Ferrari.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity again to speak. I am grateful that you make this offer to citizens. I'm reading resolutions of why we voted no confidence in President Ann Kress on November 14th, excuse me. Unilateral and highly punitive change without prior notice to the contractually negotiated cost-sharing benefit care provisions for retirees who have faithfully served taxpayers of Monroe County and New York State. They'll result in litigation costs at taxpayer and student expense. Just like SOAR, some of our retirees at MCC were forced to make changes in their health care. I get emails from people that are having trouble getting their medication. They're a little bit at the end of their rope because they don't know what's going to happen next. So I think retirees are very important. They have served this county very well, just like the sheriffs. They have served the county. I think that we need to stand up for our obligations. It was under Article 27. These people retired under that article, and they should be given these benefits. Reversal without prior notice of the contractually negotiated and state-mandated letters of agreement on the need for progressive discipline and due process practices. The refusal of minimal communication, forewarning, or consultation despite explicit contractual agreement to discuss with the FA matters of personnel prior to any disciplinary action. We have unions. We have unions because they're there to work with the employees. They're supposed to work together with the college administration or to come to agreements about how to make the situation better. It's not supposed to be a driven decision where employees are affected without union representation. This has occurred at MCC despite the fact that state-mandated organizations such as the Faculty Council of Community Colleges designate one of the 3 areas of working models of collegial shared governance as including shared managing of personnel matters. It is accepted across the state and in our field that these problems are supposed to be shared governance, but that is not happening at MCC. And that's not what happened today. Thank you.
Good evening, legislators. My name is Liam Smith, and I'm a member of the Rochester Youth Climate Leaders. Today I'd like to talk about our proposed Action Plan Advisory Board and explain how it differs from the pre-existing County Sustainability Team. The Sustainability Team is a part of Executive D'Onofrio's Department of Environmental Services. I met with a few members of the Sustainability Team a couple weeks ago, and generally I think they want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, they're not doing an adequate job of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our county, and I don't think it's possible for them to do the right thing for the following reasons. First, their committee is tasked only on addressing emissions within the county government. That means that while they are doing some work to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our county government, they aren't doing anything in the community at large. We know that our entire society needs to make the transition off of fossil fuels, not just the government. For that reason, the proposed Climate Action Plan Advisory Board will be much more effective, as it will be tasked with addressing climate change in the community at large. Secondly, the sustainability team can do as much or as little work as they want to. They have no legal obligation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and there is no way to assess their success. Conversely, the Climate Action Plan Advisory Board would have a legal obligation to regularly meet and to advise the legislature on climate policy. Additionally, a climate action plan would include an emissions study and regular emissions measurements to benchmark our success. That would create a clear way to measure our success and follow up on any mistakes. I also wanted to let you all know that earlier today, Adam Bello, who is running against Cheryl D'Onofrio for county executive, announced his plan for addressing climate change in Monroe County. He acknowledges that the first step towards a sustainable Monroe County is establishing a Climate Action Plan Advisory Board. So I, and I'm sure many others, want to know what Cheryl D'Onofrio's plan is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Does she support a Climate Action Plan Advisory Board? I look forward to hearing her thoughts on the issue. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As thousands across our wonderful county leave for college in the upcoming spring, there's a group of individuals who will take a path that requires them to commit to something bigger than themselves. Those are the individuals who, upon graduation, enter the United States military. These individuals will give of themselves freely to defend our freedom and the principles that we hold dear as Americans. From the rocky shores of Maine to the bayous of Louisiana to the plains of Texas to the golden beaches of California, I am proud and comforted to know that some of Monroe County's best will be fighting on our behalf and who I know will protect this nation to the utmost. For centuries, many different people have tried to extinguish the flame of liberty, from the British to the Axis powers to the Islamic State and even at one point our own citizens. But because counties like ours across America produce brave men and women, such as those I speak of tonight, the United States will always have warriors that will ensure that flame remains forever eternal. Of the 41,892,128 men and women who have served in our armed forces during wartime, 658,031 of them never made it home. From the battlefields of Yorktown to Gettysburg, to the trenches on the Western Front, to the beaches of Normandy, to the jungles of Vietnam, to the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands have laid down their lives. They have given their last measure of devotion to defending liberty and freeing those held by the chains of tyranny. Many have taken their last breath thousands of miles from home in an unfamiliar place, never being able to feel their homeland beneath their feet again. 658,031 is not just a statistic. Each number represents a life that never got to be lived in its entirety, a family that never got to start, a bloodline that came to an end. My peers are joining the fight to preserve freedom, knowing that they may be deployed to a foreign land and could return home draped in the stars and stripes. We must instill the duty in every current and future generation to honor those who not only perished fighting for us, but those who fought and were able to return home, especially for our Vietnam veterans who came home to a country instead of being met with appreciation, were met with hostility. Our World War II veterans are leaving us at an alarming rate of around 348 per day. Of the more than 16 million Americans who served during World War II, fewer than 500,000 remain. By the year 2029, the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates there will be only 37,017 World War II veterans still alive. In our lifetime, the rousing voices of the greatest generation will be forever silent. Whether they were drafted or volunteered, they put their lives on hold and answered our country's call to service. They left behind fiancés, wives, husbands, parents, sons, and daughters, all for God and country. But their legacy will never die. The individuals across our county who served carry on the legacy of the greatest generation and the legacy of our forefathers. As we commemorated the 75th anniversary of D-Day in June, we are reminded that we must ensure that the stories of our heroes, fallen or living, are told for centuries to come. In closing, if you remember anything from this speech, remember this. The most expensive thing you will ever own will not be your clothes, shoes, phone, or your car. It will, in fact, be your freedom. It is the most expensive thing you own because it was paid for by someone else's life. Life is the most valuable thing on earth, and to think that an individual, someone you probably have never heard of, someone from somewhere across America, firmly believed that sacrificing their life was worth your freedom is unfathomable. If that does not make your freedom the most expensive thing you own, I don't know what will. May God bless those who serve, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Richard Cherkis, Randy Semino, and Robin Willington.
County Executive and honorable members of the Legislature, good evening. My name is Dr. Richard Cherkis, and I'm a retired obstetrician gynecologist. New York City, the Big Apple. Did you also know that New York City has the dubious distinction of being known as the abortion capital of the United States? That's because 1 out of every 3 pregnancies in New York City ends in a termination. And 98% of these terminations are being performed on healthy, but unfortunately unwanted fetuses. While other states are passing legislation to protect the unborn fetus, New York State, with its Reproductive Health Act, is making it easier and easier and easier to terminate a pregnancy, a fetus, at almost any point in the pregnancy. There is something wrong with the moral compass of Albany, and it's time for Monroe County to give them some direction by repealing the Reproductive Health Act. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Randy Semino. I'm the president of Gates to Recovery. Today I'm here to ask for help for this opiate crisis that we're so desperately trying to fight. I have the coroner's report for the amount of deaths we had in 2018. 195 deaths due to opiate overdoses in 2018. It took 8 months for us to get that report. We didn't get it until just the end of July. So we were pretty close to 8 months. And when it came out, no one felt that it was worthy to go on the news and talk about how many deaths we've had. I know all about the water levels down in the lake, but there's nothing said about our loved ones that are dying every day from this crisis. My team had a chance to go to Erie County to see what their system is there. They have a fantastic system there. The one we have in Monroe County is an absolute failure. It's waste, complete waste. Everybody's not teaming together to fight this thing. This isn't a Democratic or Republican thing. This is a people thing. And if you guys can't come together, all work together to try to start saving some lives, your voters are dying. Their families are dying. It's horrible. You should have saved people that look up to you for help and guidance. And I was a drug addict for a long, long time. I've been in prison, been everywhere. I know what it's like from the other side. And I always felt that no one cared, that all anybody ever wanted to do was lock us up, that it can't be beat. Well, I'm here to tell you it can be beat. And if we can get some help and some funding and somebody that cares, we can beat this thing. Their system, they have their emergency rooms working together with law enforcement and first responders, the court system, the district attorney. Everybody works together there. And because of that, their numbers are down so low, and they're going down further and further every day. With closing, I'll just say this. We need all the help we can get. Please do something to help Gates to Recovery solve this problem.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. The last time I stood before you, I spoke about the need for clarification to define life. Seems like a pretty simple concept to me. Life begins at the point of fertilization on day 1. By day 6, the embryo begins implantation into the uterus. By day 22, a heart begins to beat. By the end of the 3rd week, the child's backbone, spinal column, and nervous system are forming, and the liver, kidneys, and intestines begin to take shape. According to an article from the Washington Post, late-term abortions are generally understood to take place during or after the 21st to the 24th week of gestation, which is late in the 2nd trimester. However, there is no precise medical or legal definition of late term, and many doctors and scientists avoid that language, calling it imprecise and misleading. Here's what's misleading. We live in a society where we have lost the definition of truth. We're expected to embrace feelings over truth with acceptance of obvious contradictions and denial of reality. Truth can't be relative. If it's relative, then it's not truth. Truth is an opinion or preference. Truth is not subjective or relative. Truth only exists in accordance with fact or reality. So here's the truth. The truth is, by the end of the 4th month, a baby will be 8 to 10 inches long in length and will weigh up to half a pound. The truth is, at week 17, a baby can dream and enter into REM sleep. The truth is, at 20 weeks, a baby recognizes its mother's voice. The truth is, babies can routinely be saved at 21 to 22 weeks after fertilization, and sometimes they can be saved even younger. The truth is, abortion does not undo rape. The truth is, abortion does not heal trauma. The truth is, abortion does not administer justice. The truth is, abortion does not just affect the life of the mother. The truth is, in late-term abortions, the mother still has to deliver that child in its lifeless state. The truth is, in places like New York City, we're seeing more abortions than births. As our representatives, please realize late-term abortions are inhumane. Each one of you holds the power to make an impactful change. Use the power entrusted to you to shape a better tomorrow. Uphold the 14th Amendment guaranteeing life by recognizing these unborn babies for what they are, little persons. Do not deny these babies, our future citizens of tomorrow, their rights and equal protection under the law. Please repeal the Reproductive Health Care Act. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Aisha Kaplari, Marla Parsons, and William Turner.
Hi, my name is Ishaq Wathari, and I'm part of the Rochester Youth Climate Leaders and a rising senior at Brighton High School. Today I'm here to speak about the benefits of establishing a climate action plan. Climate change is an increasingly pressing issue in Monroe County as well as the whole of the United States. In the last 3 years, the United States has spent over $150 billion due to climate-related disasters. The effects of climate change are directly impacting our own community as well, with the rising water levels across around Decoit Bay. I'm not going to lie and pretend that I have a simple solution to climate change. However, the effects we are experiencing will not go away, and the cost of inaction is simply too high. However, acting on climate change will be beneficial no matter how small the actions are. For example, encouraging the use of solar panels in the county would help create jobs in the sustainability industry, as well as provide cheaper energy for consumers. Advocating for sustainable farming would help reduce our carbon footprint by reducing carbon emissions through transportation, but it would also help the farmers in our community. Establishing a climate advisory board would be a powerful first step towards creating a full-fledged climate action plan. A climate advisory board would facilitate discussion on the best way to combat climate change on the county level. Furthermore, it would encourage bipartisanship by inviting experts from all backgrounds and political parties to advise the county. By hearing the opinions of experts, the legislature can be advised on the best ways to make Monroe County more sustainable. I invite any legislator curious about the Climate Advisory Board to contact the Rochester Youth Climate Leaders. We would love to hear anyone's advice on the topic. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to speak with you today about women's physical and emotional trauma after having an abortion. According to the American Pregnancy Association, emotional and psychological effects following abortion are more common than physical side effects. Side effects include regret, anger, guilt, shame, sense of loneliness, loss of self-confidence, insomnia, nightmares, relationship issues, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, depression, and anxiety. Women commonly report that the abortion procedure affected them more than they had expected. Psychologist Teresa Karminski-Burke, PhD, says, in general, there is a 10 to 15-year period of denial during which women who were traumatized by their abortions will repress thoughts and feelings about the event. Memories can be triggered with the conception or birth of wanted children or by another life-stressing circumstance. Karminski-Burke tells of a woman who can't bring herself to vacuum the rugs in her house because of acute panic attacks. They paralyze her when she is reminded of the suction machine used to terminate her pregnancy. Another woman is plagued by nightmares. There is always a little girl crying for her mommy, with her arms outstretched and her eyes filled with fear and abandon. This woman takes strong barbiturates each night to avoid this painful nocturnal phenomenon. One woman becomes traumatized each time she makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for her daughter. The jelly reminds her of the blood clots that she passed after her abortion. Another woman who never thought about her abortion until she stared into the eyes of her precious newborn baby 12 years later. From that moment on, she was filled with self-loathing and doubt. Instead of bonding with this new baby, she rejected him, feeling that she was incapable of nurturing and love. One woman never dated after her abortion. As she approaches her 40s, she lives with the knowledge that she aborted the only child she may ever have, and that traumatizes her. The list goes on and on. Many women feel pressured to comply with the needs or wishes of others. Some women are threatened by the baby's father. Lack of emotional support to keep a pregnancy can be experienced as pressure forcing a woman to choose abortion. Financial problems, being unmarried, social problems, or health problems may also make a woman feel forced to accept abortion as her only choice. The niece of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Elvita King, had one involuntary abortion and one voluntary abortion. It was the early 1970s, she said, and Roe v. Wade made it too easy for me to make that fateful and fatal decision to abort my child. The doctor advised that the procedure would hurt no more than having a tooth removed. However, the procedures damaged her cervix and forced her to miscarry another baby months later. The physical toll on her body and the emotional strain of the abortions led to the demise of her first marriage. Over the next few years, Elvita experienced medical problems and had trouble bonding with her children who were born after the abortions. Elvita said, "My children have all suffered from knowing that they have a brother or sister that their mother chose to abort. Often they ask if I ever thought of aborting them." As a result of her abortion, Elvita suffered from eating disorders, depression, nightmares, sexual dysfunctions, and a host of other issues, and the guilt made her very ill. She also said, "I prayed often for the deliverance from the pain caused by my decision to abort my baby. I suffered the threat of cervical and breast cancer and experienced the pain of empty arms after the baby was gone. And truly for me and countless abortive mothers, nothing on earth can fully restore what has been lost. Only Jesus can."
Please summarize.
There is no doubt that abortion takes the life of a human being, and we can make it illegal to declaw a cat in New York State because it is considered inhumane and it's just brutal. Well, killing a baby in the womb is inhumane and brutal and unnecessary. There are so many families that would like to adopt these children, but it is difficult to find enough children that are able to be adopted in America. The cost is up there. Please repeal the Reproductive Health Act. Send a message to Governor Cuomo that upstate New York does not agree with him and our state assembly that passed this law. Thank you for your time.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we will recess the August 13th, 2019 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature and convene the Pure Waters Administrative Board for Rochester Pure Waters District. Mr. Clerk, please note the attendance and read the first item on the agenda.
PWAB Agenda Item Number 1, Referral 19-0177.
Moved by Legislator Bruce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item. We will now recess the Rochester Pure Waters District and adjourn the Pure Waters Administrative Board. The August 13th meeting of the Legislature is reconvened. Legislator Marionetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to move the following agenda items, items 1 through 47, with the exception of item 43, and further move that they be considered through one vote of the legislature.
Moved by Legislator Marionetti, seconded by Legislator Cayley. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 43, Referral 19-0192.
Moved by Legislator Zale, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. This is to adopt. Legislator Halstead.
Mr. President, I'd like to state my intent on this item. I do work for the University of Rochester Medical Center.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 48, Referral 19-0198.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 51, Referral 19-0201.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to rise to explain my vote. First of all, I'd like to thank Tom Ferraci for his dedication to the Board of Elections, for everything that he's done for, how long you been there, Tom? 20 years. So I wish you the best retirement, and I thank you on behalf of our county. So thank you very much. And Mr. President, Colleen Anderson has been, well, she's known me probably longer than I've known me, which is, I think, how I described Tom last time I voted for him. Colleen has made it a point of dedicating her life to what's important for the people around her. And I know that when she becomes Commissioner of the Board of Elections, she's going to continue to represent the people of Monroe County to ensure that we have safe elections. And I know she's going to work with her counterparts on the other side of the aisle to really ensure that we have the best Board of Elections in the state of New York. So with that, Mr. President, I vote in favor of Colleen Anderson for Monroe County. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Congratulations. There is no unfinished business. Legislator Marionetti.